I don't understand it either. Maybe they want to transition into being establishment Democrats themselves while still pretending like they're progressives. But I mean, it's as clear as day for us. But this is why people like you and I have to keep exposing these people, because we can't afford any more people to be misguided. We were running out of time from there being a nuclear catastrophe. I mean, the doomsday clock is getting closer and closer to midnight, and from also our Earth is getting destroyed. Things are getting privatized more and more. We're stepping into all these other countries that we have no business in being in, and over exploiting their natural resources and destroying the planet, ruining ecosystems, destroying the biodiversity. We don't have enough time, which is why we urgently need to be exposing these fakes. Which is why, like, my next question is, like, do you think that the squad members would have pushed for or voted for an amendment like the Spanberger Roy amendment that requires House of Representatives and senators to put their force their spouses and dependent children to put their stocks into trust funds, blind trust funds, or do you think that they wouldn't? I before you answer that, I do want to remind people about how Robbie has uncovered a lot of he's revealed a lot of information about Ro Khanna. So that should tell, and the information that he's revealed about Ro Khanna should tell you about why he probably wouldn't have liked to have voted for something like that.
Okay, so that's like a multi-layered question, and
Yeah,
I'm definitely let's get into it, right?
yeah.
So, do I think I'm so being someone called a progressive? You asked me if they would have brought an amendment to the table. Well, they've had an opportunity to, because this has been an issue for forever,
Mm-hmm.
and nothing so far. Which is thinking if you're a progressive, that I'm thinking that's one of the things that's first popping into your mind. Um, I'm glad you mentioned Ro Khanna because this kind of brings it all back to a little tied up the whole conversation up into a nice little bow. The importance of this story, like I said at the beginning, why is this important? Because it's not just a Democrat thing. It's not just a Republican thing. Even though a lot of people got on Senator Perdue, Loeffler, and Burr last year for trying to do the same thing, taking advantage of the pandemic economy. I reported last year Ro Khanna via his multiple trust funds and investment accounts, who, by the way, I'm sure are not run by him or his very wealthy wife, where I'm sure most of
Mm-hmm.
this money comes from. I'm sure they pay people to do it, just like a lot of the wealthy people do. Um, but it's glad you said that because you know what? He filed something today, so we might break a little something.
Oh
I mean,
shit.
I'm just gonna. Well, I mean, it's just interesting, right? So,
Mm.
Ro Khanna's trust fund, when I reported it was right at the beginning of the lockdown, and whoever was running this man's accounts, shisty, but they're smart, right? Trying to get a nice big commission. So they said, "Hey, global pandemic, worldwide lockdowns. Let's invest a shit ton of money in Pfizer, and let's invest a shit ton of
Oh
money
my
in
god.
DuPont." And it's right there for everyone to see. It's very very obvious. Um, and of course, it was said, "Oh, well, that's my wife's money. It wouldn't be." This is from kind of, I'm paraphrasing. He said, "It's my wife's money. It wouldn't be fair for me to tell her what to do with her money. It would be sexist or blah blah, whatever." He made excuses, even though John Kerry managed to talk to his wife into you know, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
right? Whatever. But but otherwise his portfolio was full of general dynamics, stuff like that. Let's see what do we got going on here. Excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm looking through his. He just so nothing too crazy. Bunch of Coca-Cola, Zynga, Facebook, Nvidia, right? Snap. So I'm looking through his very latest financial stuff right now. I'm trying to see if
Just
it's
the
in there.
typical companies he's supposed to be fighting against.
Yeah,
You know.
Walgreens, Viacom, CBS. Let's see here. Yeah, so nothing too interesting in this one. He's selling a little bit of JP Morgan. Yeah, I mean some of them are like that. Yeah, Adobe. Yeah, but then you'll get the ones that are like Raytheon and General Dynamics, as I've mentioned before,
Mm-hmm.
Boeing and Pfizer, and you're like, what the hell? I mean, are you supposed to be a progressive or what? Right? Because as I just said, John Kerry, who also has a very wealthy billionaire heiress wife, who is also required. I mean, he's required to divest. Ro Khanna is not. That's the distinction to make. But also, he managed to make a phone call to the people that manage his massive fortune and tell them, I need you to get out of X, Y, and Z. And they did it, which is why I always took Ro Khanna's excuse as just that, as just an excuse, as a cop out. You're a congressman. You're one of the most powerful 550 people in DC. Give or take a few. You should be able to make a phone call to the people that manage your money and get out of at the very least. You're a member of the Progressive Caucus. Get out of the defense companies. Get out of the pharmaceutical companies. Get out of any of the other like oil companies and investments that are sneaking into your portfolio,
Mm-hmm.
because there are those, and there definitely are. You can at least do that. You can just say, hey, no oil, no weapons, no banks, no pharmaceuticals. You
Yeah.
can tell your money manager that, and they will move your shit around to reflect your desire. And anybody tells you otherwise is just an excuse. So like I said, it's not a partisan issue. Nancy Pelosi does it. Republicans do it. So-called progressives do it. And there's many forms. There's the outright just buying the stock, and then there's the trust funds. The only time I really ignore it is when I see it's part of somebody's IRA or 401k, because in all likelihood they don't. I mean, they've got a 401k from a previous employer, and honestly, it's almost impossible to keep track of all that. They have zero to do with any of that. They can't even. I'm not even sure you could call and say, hey, I don't want you to invest in my 401, because 401ks are usually blanket across whatever company is providing it. It's providing the same investments for pretty much everybody that
Mm-hmm.
providing it for. So that's a little bit of a different story. But if you have a personal trust account, you definitely have control over that. And you definitely can change that as a congressman. And like I said, any time they say that, oh, well, that's not my money, or that's just a bunch of bullshit, they can change it. They just choose not to.
Yeah. This might be a little bit too personal for Ro Khanna, but I mean, you can't influence the people close to you, especially your wife, about the evils of corporations, like these weapons manufacturing companies and pharmaceuticals. I mean, you talk about this all like as like all day long. If these are like principles that you're really passionate about, that should stick out as like the kind of character that you are, of sticking up for the little person and against these big evil companies. I mean, I also like the angle that you took, that Steve and Glory and Ali took in your interview with them on Slow News Day, about how the fourth industrial revolution, like the biggest investments are in the pharmaceuticals and in big tech. But that's something that really needs to be pointed out, is the Great Reset, and how those are the biggest investments for that.
And weapons.
And weapons. I mean, it's the same players that are involved in all of those. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Robbie, any final words on that Nancy Pelosi story?
No, it's just like I said. It's just it's something to just pay attention to. It's why I report on stuff like that, is so you can see where your government officials are making their money and abusing their power. And this is an issue that's been going on for forever, and sadly will continue until somebody grows a big enough of a spine to mount some resistance and actually change the law.
Mm-hmm.